Trauma Therapist Podcast Plus listeners can listen to episodes early and ad-free right now. Become a Plus listener by going to Apple Podcasts, searching for the Trauma Therapist Podcast, and signing up today. All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Dr. Laurie Moore. Laurie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Dr.
Hey,
Laurie
let me
Moore,
clarify something right off the bat. As an LMFT, I'm not allowed to call myself doctor. I know it's confusing. I'm an expressive art psychologist, so I call myself doctor with my coaching clients. And for California legal reasons, I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm an expressive art psychologist. So my license is an LMFT, and I'm required to say that.
No worries. Okay, so that's fine. We can do. I'll just redo the intro.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Laurie Moore. Laurie, welcome.
Thank you, Guy. Good to be here.
So Laurie is a spiritual teacher with graduate degrees in expressive arts therapy. She's a licensed marriage, family, counseling therapist, and she has certificates in animal communication and hypnotherapy. Her work utilizes communicating with all species and moment-to-moment creation, and her message is simply is that you are a gift to the universe. Welcome again, and really excited to talk to you. But before we get going here, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
Okay, you mean geographically? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, I was born, interestingly, in California, and at 1 year old, because my dad ended up working with one of the Kennedys, and very liberal guy, and we moved to Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Bethesda, and I've lived in Hawaii, but I've spent most of my adulthood in California.
Awesome. So interesting. I don't think I've ever talked to someone who has a certificate in animal communication and hypnotherapy, but we'll get into that. So how did this interest in, what's the word, healing? Would that be safe to say, or?
Yes.
How did all this start for you?
I think we come in with a soul purpose. I really, at this point, believe that. I feel it was very destined. I was intricately involved in arts and drama and music and dance and writing songs and choreographing dances, writing plays, putting them on, having kids put them on, working with adults to put them on. And that led me to decide to get a degree in expressive art therapy, because people I was coaching just naturally in that process, as I would direct performances, were going through healings and transformations. So I wanted to learn more. I wanted to learn more about facilitating people's wellness and transformation. So
you said you believe that we all come into this world with a soul purpose.
I do. Yes. Okay.
Define soul purpose.
I think soul purposes are
you say SOUL.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think soul purposes are very simple. I think that our souls have a direction and an expression. So someone might come in to bring tremendous humor to the planet, and they could do anything from just being someone who's like picking up garbage and everyone they meet, they're telling a joke, to Robin Williams, right? So it's not the outer shell, it's how we utilize the world to bring our gift to help others.
Are we cognizant of this purpose? Because this is a really interesting question to me, because, in the self-help literature, find your purpose. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't have a purpose. I can't find it. So what is your response to that?
I think when we are living out our purpose, we feel very fulfilled and on track. I don't know that we know our purpose, all of us. Others know it, others can see it. And I think we get enough feedback throughout our life that it can become clear to us. I think when we're not living out our purpose, we feel bland or bored or unfulfilled. Yeah. I don't think we get to design it the way the New Age wants to think. The New Age is, I'm very New Age, but the New Age, the way I'm not New Age is the New Age wants us to think that our willpower rules the world and we mentally design, no offense to anyone in the New Age, again, I'm very New Age, but that we mentally design with our willpower what we're going to do. And the world is so much bigger than that. Our purposes are bigger than that. And the universal stream is bigger than that.
Well, I mean, if we're living our soul purpose when we're doing what makes us happy, what comes easy to us, when we're in our genius, in a sense, I mean, who's to say we can't design a life around that?
We do. And that I believe, I'm all for that. I help people do that. We manifest the framework and the goals and hitting, the target. But there's something innate about each of us that will come through as a gift to all the others, which we don't design.
Right. Okay. So let's take a step back. So you were born into this world with this desire, need, gift of wanting to express yourself in a sense. At what point, Laurie, did this channel into helping other people in terms of as a therapist, or we haven't even touched upon animal communication.
Yeah.
We'll bring that in here. Talk to us about that.
That was just who I was from early age. In kindergarten, I was helping kids in the neighborhood and creating little libraries in the house for the grown-ups around to come visit. And, by the time I was, I think 7, I was putting on these fundraisers at the school. So that was just the way I was. Yeah.
So you go through school, and when you were in school, let's say high school, college, what were you thinking in terms of profession moving forward?
I didn't know. I thought I would just probably grow up. This is wild. I thought, well, I'll grow up, I'll go to school for a couple of years, I'll meet my forever husband and drop out and have kids, which was like the exact opposite of my life has been so career driven into the globe, into the service world. And that's not at all how it played out. Yeah.
So how did it play out?
What?
How did it play out?
It played out just following my heart one step at a time. Wild things happen. I mean, I didn't know I would have a global business. I didn't know that one year I would suddenly switch from being a therapist to being a therapist and a coach and a reader and a spiritual facilitator. Everything was always a surprise to me. I didn't have like a map of how it was going to go. Yeah.
You talked about kind of following your heart. I mean, that's hard for a lot of us to do. Was that something that came easily for you?
It was. And I think that's a lot of the work I do with people is I help them to get back to a deeper place in their heart and love themselves and love what they're here to do. And for me, that was easy. I was in that way very fortunate.
Yeah, I should say so. That's something that I struggle to a certain degree with. And I really appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. And when you're able to do that, right? When you follow what your gift is, or your heart is, or where your energies go, you're on fire.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why yes. That's how everything takes off in ways you would never, ever expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, you think your life path is going to go one way, it goes 180 degrees the other way. So walk us through how you started helping people in an organized business way. What was going on for you? Take us there.
Well, like I said, when I was leading I was on fire to create these musicals, and these musicals were to bring forth a humane environment, to bring forth love and kindness and upliftment. And in that process, I noted the way I interacted with the people who would come to be part of that was healing. They were going through transformations. And so I went to graduate school to study expressive arts, art, drama, music, dance therapy. And when I came out of that, I was very focused on that. And I would sit with people one-on-one and help them with their problems. And I had a pretty strong spiritual occurrence during that time. And very quickly, things happened.
Okay,
One day I'm on, like, I was interviewing with like O'Reilly on O'Reilly Factor and Ricky Lake and all those people, and and I was being told, oh, you're going to be, you're going to get a big show. And I was on the limousines in New York, and I had this huge spiritual awakening where my cat reincarnated. So I'm like, I better not say anything. People are going to think I am some nuts, But I had to start telling people about what I had experienced. And very quickly, it was probably within about 6 months, I was going to Hawaii. I was taking people into spiritual awakenings. I was
all right,
like
pause,
a whole nother.
pause, Laurie.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So how long ago was this when you were working one-on-one after you got out of your expressive arts program? How long ago was that?
Okay, so this was like over 25 years ago.
Okay. And then after that, or close to that, you were on the O'Reilly Factor and doing all the limousine stuff with the shows and
and everything it switched.
Okay. And it switched because why specifically?
Well, I had such a profound experience with people will make fun of me, but I had such a profound experience with a cat that reincarnated it. And let's even leave out that he reincarnated. I went into a state of oneness.
Of yours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I went into an experience of oneness with the whole universe. Like, I've talked a lot about it on Rick Archer's show and Buddha at the Gas Pump. So I have a lot of the people I work with are from more that spiritual place now. But I had that experience. It's not a conceptual experience. It's a real experience. And from that, also feeling a soul of the cat came back to me in a new body, being crystal clear that it happened. I was teaching a little group at my home only a few days later. And I was thinking, don't say anything, don't say anything about this. This sounds so nutty. And something in the love for humanity and life was like, you have to share this. So I just told them, and people were crying, and they started to share their own hidden experiences. And this led to some interview in Hawaii, and it all unfolded. Soon I was taking people into deep spiritual awakenings, and people from around the world were coming, and I was giving seminars. We had a big seminar company. It was called The Miracle Ground for a while, and the name was changed to The Love Climate. But those were very amazing years. And like I said, I didn't start with a map. I really just followed my soul, what my soul told me to do. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm not making fun of you. I don't do that on this podcast. I'm open to who knows what the hell is going on out here. So I have, believe me, I there's no judgment. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that and what your path and journey is. So, wow. So after all that, where are we landing now? What is the work that you're doing?
I would say tempered, balance, like deep, deep respect for people, no matter what they're going through. It's a very difficult time for many people on the planet. People go through personal things that are so difficult. I think the younger generations are coming in having to handle complexities of the mind that I didn't. And so I'm helping people with pattern changes, mostly people finding that their brains and their moods and their bodies aren't cooperating with what their deeper intentions are at times, right? And so I'm doing a lot of that now, helping people kind of rewire and unwire, and in that find still the same work, find a respect and love for themselves in all of life.
Well, I would even qualify what you're saying, and I would say most times, most of us are misaligned. Let alone do we even know what our going back to the purpose, what our purpose is, or where we're having joy. But what's interesting in talking to you, you have so many kind of rivers of really interesting experience that you're bringing to the work you're doing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, whether it be spiritual or expressive arts and a more traditional, MFT background and so forth. Um, who would you say to do you work with adults only?
I do now. I mean, I
Okay.
worked with children for years, but in terms of therapy and
Yeah.
coaching, in terms of therapy, adults only. I do have some teens, and for coachings and readings, I do have younger people who call, like a whole family will call often. But people who are having trauma, which seems to be like everyone in the world these days, yeah, I love to help with that. And I have a lot of adults coming in to work with trauma. And I think that's very directly related to our, if we're troubled and things are bothering us and we don't feel quite like ourselves, we're feeling like something about our soul purpose isn't being actualized. My life has been a lot of ups and downs, and I always ask for just a calm life, but it's not how it's gone. And I spent about 8 months close to death. It's a miracle that I'm alive. A year and a half ago, I was in a hospice in Kona, and I weighed 91 pounds, and no one knew what was wrong with me. It turned out I had Lyme disease for many, many years, and it got me. But it was 8 months of hell. I went through 8 months of hell, and
Oh my God.
I didn't know if I was going to live. And I have intricately, step by step, like had to heal my body and my organs and my brain, and find out what was wrong with me and hang on to this life and ask, am I meant to go? Am I meant to stay and fight and surrender? So I came back with a whole different depth of compassion for just about everything at this point.
Mm.
Yeah. So my work's very informed by that now. Just having deep respect for whatever anyone is experiencing. Yeah.
When in this work you do, and in this field, in the mental health space, coaching space, there's a lot of talk about self-care, doing your own work. Um, what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself that allows you and helps you to do the work you do with others?
I think the 8 months was really informative because I was pretty dysfunctional. I couldn't do much. So a lot of the time I was just doing inner spiritual work that didn't have any format. Most of the time I had learned. I just had to go with what was coming internally to me. And it showed me that each person's maps are so different, and we can create all kinds of formulas and helpful tools, which are wonderful. There's so many these days, and I have a big kit of those. But we have to follow the way that each individual's brain and body and emotions work for themselves, because no one really fits into any preconceived. We have bits and pieces of all these preconceived ideas and maps, but everyone's quite distinct in how they navigate, and people need respect for that. People need to be honored and shown that whatever's troubling them is likely to be the source of their greatest talents and gifts. They need facilitation with that. So if someone's depressed or having anxiety or having trauma or complex trauma or complicated trauma, or any kind of trauma, they need to be, someone has to sit with them and reflect back to them their majesty, their goodness, how incredible they are, and how this disrupt is part of that. It's just part of something trying to evolve.
In terms of uh, all the different kind of modalities out there, we've talked a little bit about them. What is your thought on the importance of therapists, coaches, even uh, understanding those modalities? I mean, there's so many, right? There's EMDR and somatic experiencing, sensory motor, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Where do you, what are your thoughts on that? Is it important for therapists to know a little bit about all of them, or find the one that works, quote unquote, works for them? What are your
I think
thoughts?
it's really important to know some, to not limit ourselves, to keep learning different ones, because different clients will respond to different modalities, and it keeps our minds open to different modes and ways of pressing. I mean, I've seen the therapy field change so much in my time doing it. So I think it's very important to have some that you can do quite deeply and really well, and to stay open to learning more. But knowing a little bit about all of them would be another kind of personality type that works that way. So I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way, but it's important we keep ourselves informed and growing and open.
So you work as you're working as, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're working as a therapist and a coach
Separately.
separately.
People have to decide when they come to me, are you going to be coming for therapy or coaching? If you're not in
Okay.
California, that already puts you in coaching.
Okay.
And then are you doing coaching with readings? Because I have this intuitive gift that I use too. So
Okay.
you can't switch around for legal and ethical reasons.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Now, do you provide trainings for other therapists?
Only one-on-one at this point. I all my work is now one-on-one. So yes, therapists,
Okay.
healers, coaches come to get trained with me. Yes.
Interesting. Now, what are you offering them in terms of trainings?
I have a whole list of different trainings people can go through. And their trainings, everything from manifestation to working with self-defeating habits to just getting feedback on their own path, because I've supervised LMFTs in that way too. So I like to talk to the person and see what they're looking for, and we create the right one-on-one program together before we start.
This is cool. I think this could be really helpful. I'm just thinking of our listeners here. And, like I said, it's so important for therapists and coaches to do that work for themselves. And it sounds like you're providing, in a sense, a platform to work with them on that, right? It's so,
Yeah.
for me, from my experience, when I got out of graduate school, I was working in a clinic for a short time, 5 years. I was in Northern California. We were assessing and treating young kids who were showing early signs of psychosis. And so much of my motivation and drive was knowledge, right? I thought that that was the be all end all of working with people. And though it's important, it's certainly not the whole picture, right? So much of it is understanding who we are, our biases, our tendencies, and even our gifts, right? What we bring to that relationship. And I think it's really cool to hear someone say that you can even help people work on that. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, your drive for knowledge has created this beautiful platform because you take great interest in different people's knowledge, right? And you
I
have the
do.
background knowledge to be able to do that, to
Right.
ask these questions.
Right.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
do. But I also, I for the longest time, I didn't trust the importance of what I would bring to the setting in a sense. And I think trusting, we talked about trusting our gift, our own journey. I think that's so valuable because especially when we're talking about people who've been impacted by trauma, they've lost almost all of that. They're almost devoid of self-trust and oftentimes love. But to provide that, I think is really, really interesting, inspiring too.
Yeah, I learned a lot about that in the 8 months that I mentioned, because all of a sudden, like, I had no title, I had no, I guess my life's been very wonderful in some ways because I have been treated well. And I mean, I kind of got treated like crap some of the time. And it was a real like insight into, oh my God, how are people treated and when they're ill and when they're getting old? It was a very horrible insight into it, but I'm grateful I experienced that because I had to rely on a kind of self-respect that was not, I had to like look through this world where people were looking at me with these horrible projections that I wasn't used to. I mean, the projections people come up with when people are sick and dysfunctional and incapable has nothing to do with the spirit and the soul. So it was quite a fabulous learning. And to deepen the respect for everyone, once again, to just assume, wow, each person is a genius and has so much going on. And I'm just here to help them be honored for it and have it uncovered.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of us to do that. It's hard for a lot of us to believe that we have a certain genius, believe that we have a certain fire or gift. I don't have a gift. You have a gift. I don't. Who are you kidding?
It's something we're taught, huh?
It's
Yeah.
something that you're taught by, by all the different channels, but
Yeah.
I do believe that. I do believe that each of us has a, whatever you want to call it, has a, this, there are we're each burning flames in our own way, whether you want to
Yes.
call that a gift or genius or whatever,
Yes.
but it's oftentimes so hard for us to see that. And I think it's those incredible coaches like yourself and therapists who are able to reflect that and invite their clients to see that and believe that and to honor that. I mean, come on, what else is there really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, Laurie, as we kind of wind down here, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
People can call me or text me at 831-477-7007. That's 831-477-7007. People can go to my websites. There's a counseling website, counseling.scottsvalley.us, or just go to psychologytoday.com. Look for me. And I have Anna Miracles, ANImiracles.com and ANImiracles.com/new for coachings and readings.
Okay. Okay. And we'll have each of those linked up here at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Laurie, we didn't even talk about animal hypnotherapy. I'm gonna have to bring you back. I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to come back. Yeah, we have lots more to talk about.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
But look, I really appreciate you showing up and sharing your journey and your honesty. I mean, this is what I hope this podcast is about. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. It was wonderful to sit with you. You showed up with such embodiment of passion for your work and life, and I'm very grateful we could have this time. So thank you very much, Guy.
I appreciate that. All right. Take care.
Hey, bye-bye.